here's a trademark. I do this every time. I flip the glasses off like I'm Clark Kent turning into Superman, but in reality, I'm Dave.
And I'm Sean.
This is Barstools and Bandtalk. Boy,
I'm just going to have to zoom in because I don't have my mug.
Oh, that's like your mug. That's like real life version of your mug.
Look at that.
Well, we had a lot of requests for a part 2 of this interview. And actually, we had a part 2, but we had a really weird computer issue. And we kind of lost part 2. So we're going to try and recreate part 2 in this little segment here tonight. We've gone all the way to Charlottetown, PEI, to bring on previous guests of ours. And you want to bring them on, Sean?
Yeah, sure. So these guys, obviously, when I was coming up, I knew Sean Kilbride for years. He was a Dartmouth boy, Broken Toys, and he went into the band with these next guys. These two guys were great. They were actually early on when we started this thing. They came on graciously through our friend Marnie. And we had a great chat with them. And then, like I say, we had some technical issues. I think we were on the free Zoom at that point, so we don't have to worry about that now. So actually, this is going to be a lot of fun, and I'm really excited to introduce Mr. Marvin Birt and Mr. Dave Rashed from Haywire.
Yes, sir. And I think we should be able to bring them on.
There they are.
You're both perfect.
Gents.
Oh, excellent, excellent.
So I have the first question. It's going to go to Mr. Birt. Obviously, a lot of people, and we covered this last time, a lot of people kind of referred to you as the Eddie Van Halen of Atlantic Canada when you were coming up. And just give us some thoughts on the passing of Eddie, because I know you were a big fan. We were all a big fan. And I've been wanting to ask you this question since it happened. So just give us your thoughts.
Well, I knew he was sick. You know, it was all over the internet. You know, something was going on and stuff. So. But it was kind of like, just as a guitar player, it just felt better when he was in the world, if that makes sense. You know, and somebody that I never met or I didn't know, but I knew was playing, and it's almost like growing up through the years, you learn so much about different guitar players. You study them, and you study everybody from Jeff Beck, Jimmy Page, all of them, Eddie Van Halen, Alex Lifeson, everybody. And you pick up, so you almost get to know them through their playing, but you never meet them, So it's, anyway, it was a bit of shock for a couple of days. It was, it was a downer time anyway. So, but,
And I know for myself, I actually had a couple of people that, weren't even born when Eddie put his last album out that came up to me and said, "Did you hear about Eddie Van Halen?" That to me really strikes a chord as to what somebody means, not only in music, but I guess just to everybody when you have that type of impact.
Oh yeah, because I remember when I first hearing Eddie and just hearing this, I put it on our Facebook with Paul and I, a friend of ours playing Van Halen 1 for us, a tape deck in a car, and it's just kind of like, well, first of all, I couldn't even figure out what he was doing. I had no idea what he was doing. I just knew about the energy and how it all felt and stuff like that. So, but it definitely had an effect on me. An effect on a lot of people. So
Probably you too, Dave. I mean, any musician that like you grew up in our era, you couldn't deny Van Halen's presence and what they meant to rock music. So it would have the same impact on you too, I'm sure, because you were a guitar player starting off too.
Yeah, well, actually, we all played guitar in the band. Haywire, we had 3 guitar players when we first started. We all had. I still have a guitar in my closet, an old Gibson Les Paul Gold Top, and my memory of Van Halen was just the excitement. How once in a blue moon, you'll hear a band that redefines the sound of music, and they did it. And for sure, Eddie did it, with his guitar playing and just the sound of that band. It was like, wow, what's going on here? There's something special happening here.
I'm glad you guys shared that. Now, here's what I want to say, because we did the lead into the fact that, we grew up listening to you guys. I told you in the first segment that I was actually at that Q104 homegrown at the Forum that you guys won. I remember being there the whole day, and there was you guys and Steps Around the House and Quadrant and a whole bunch of bands. Tyrant, yeah. Dave's going to get paid for that one. But we talked in the first segment about songwriting, and I don't know if you guys remember, but I specifically referenced Dance Desire and how the guitar was doing one thing, the bass was doing another thing. And for me, that was an epitome of songwriting. It wasn't just everybody playing the same thing. And Dave, you were talking about, you had sort of come up with that idea and showed it to Ronnie, and just touch on that again in case people missed it.
Yeah, that bass line was written on the keyboard. So that's why it's probably not a natural bass pattern to play, because it is natural on a keyboard just to play those notes, right?
Yep.
And Marvin playing off that, it just worked. Like he heard his part, I just kind of was doing this thing over and over again. And poor Ronnie, it's like, I know there's a couple songs that were, what was the other one we did? There's a couple songs that were specifically written on keyboard, and he was like, oh my gosh, I have to try to figure this out. I'm just jumping over the octaves, and he's like, he needs to figure it out on the bass. And anyway, he was able to do it, thank God.
No. So, I mean, like we talked about this last time, the brilliant songwriting team that you two are, I mean, in so many hits. And it's funny because I was going through today and I posted a couple of videos, and I hadn't listened to, what was it called?
Short End of a Wishbone.
Short End of a Wishbone. I hadn't listened to that song in a long time, put it on there yesterday, and I don't know how many people were watching it again and commented and said, what a great tune. And I forgot that you guys were gone into that more rock route towards the end, towards the early 90s anyhow. Was that like a natural progression to get heavy, or was that what is what your passion was?
Well, yeah, but I think the record, because we recorded digital and a couple of things, it actually sounds heavier than it was meant to be. It was supposed to be just sound like a fun rock record. It's like it had a lot of aggression to it, I think is how it was recorded or something anyway. But you got to realize we were just, we were rockers. We grew up, Aerosmith and everybody. That's just all the stuff we grew up on. So this stuff to us was just rather natural, and nobody told us we couldn't do a record like that. That's just kind of what came out. You know what I mean? So
the thing that I found about all your albums, and we talked about this the first time, is the first one was kind of poppy. The next one was a little poppy, but a little edgier. But every album seemed to have a little bit of a different thing to it. I guess a progression to maybe where you guys were at the beginning. Is that a fair statement?
Go ahead,
well,
Dave.
you hear it said time and time again that, you have your whole career to write your first album. And when you hear the Bad Boys album, that's basically 5 years of songs being written, conceived. That's what that is. The second album is 3 months.
Right.
It's like you're in the studio in January, February, so get going. And Marvin and I remember having the conversation. It's like, oh my God, what if we have nothing left to say? What if we said it all? And it's like, let's just get together, let's start writing, and that's it. We just started brainstorming, and that's what we did. And we probably wrote, oh my God, probably about 40 ideas for that album, and we whittled it down to the ones that made the album.
Because also too, when we were working on the ideas for Not House and stuff like that, it was like what stuff worked, what stuff like, Short of a Wishbone, Live Up. These are the ones where the choruses all work, that they all lift, they all seem to be had everything needed to be a complete song. And so those were kind of the ones we kind of had to work on, because that's all we had, so those are the ones that rose to the top.
So I have a question for Marvin, just because we were talking about that, because you were involved in the songwriting. So would you have had your solos crafted ahead of time, or did you kind of make sure that the songs and the pieces of the song were there, and then you kind of went in and built your solos in the studio? How did that work?
Yeah, the solo was the last thing I ever thought about, because I was always trying to, just put the song together. Okay, this is working, that's working, all this. It's like, hey, Marvin, do the solos. And I'm like, well, gee, what am I going to do? Okay, I got to come up with something. So now they were all just kind of at the sit down. Okay, now let's do the solos. And I just had to make something up right on the spot, pretty much. So.
See, I love that you're saying that, because I know when we were growing up, that guitar players always wanted to be the shredders, and the songs were kind of maybe not great, but you're kind of approaching it like a songwriter versus a guitar player to me, which is very, very cool.
Yeah, well, we kind of learned out. I guess we got to put two and two together and learn kind of early that it was like, if we don't have a song, we don't have anything,
Right.
So if we don't have a song that we can at least, try to get on the radio with, or not even so that, but just something that's going to be relevant and can hold up against everything else that's happening at the time, then we don't have a chance, so. And we did pretty good, but listen, we barely get on there with our talents, you know what I mean? It's like, there was we were up against, this was the radio at the time, and you realize who we were up against.
Yeah.
Man, there was that's a lot of pretty heavy duty company down there.
Yeah, it's true. But see, no, it's funny you mentioned that because I mean, a song like Dance Desire or a song like Bad Bad Boys. I mean, did you have that in mind? That's like, okay, we need to have a song for the radio. Is that what you were kind of striving for? And I'll ask Dave the question too, because I mean, some of those were keyboard-based songs too. So I don't know how you train your mind to think, okay, I have to think of AOR, I have to think of radio, I have to think of radio. What's going to be, a catchy song? Like, can you write that way?
We were all like Marvin, Paul, and I. Everybody in the band was very into. We were all music lovers, so when we came to the table to write, Marvin and I, we've been listening to what's current, what's happening, what's with my we bring that all to the table, and I think when we're writing, we're just kind of bringing that. That sensibility and stuff. So we're not going to write like, Grand Funk Railroad in 1986. It's just not going to happen. Although it's great for the time and we love it and we played it, it's not what is happening now. So we just kind of, we were aware of what was going on and then we just wrote with that sensibility, whether it was, the new sounds of the day or the approach. I mean, Marvin always wrote with it was melody first with him. That was most of the stuff. He was singing. He hardly would play guitar. It was just kind of singing to try to make something that was interesting, and then find the guitar. Everything was just kind of worked from the melody.
Yeah, we it was because we got to realize that at the time, everything was happening in music with video and everything at the time. So we were inundated with the same thing everybody else, the same music everybody else was hearing. Everything from Bryan Adams, all that friggin' that rock radio music, but we didn't really consider it like radio music. We just thought it was great music. Right on. So when we sat back to write music, we were just writing, well, we like this. We never really thought, can we get this on the radio? That was kind of a happy accident, because all we could do is write what we could write, because we had that one compass that would kind of, it was in us. And if that compass was kind of off to what was going on the radio, we never would have got on the radio, because that's all we had to do was to guide us, was that compass anyways.
So I was talking to a friend the other day. I said, we're doing a part 2 with you guys. My friend's a guitar player. And his line was really interesting. He said, Marvin Birt is a happy sounding guitar player when he plays. Is that by design, or do you agree? And I think what he was saying is that everything that you play sounds upbeat, peppy, not downer and dreary.
Well, it just shows I'm having fun. I love playing guitar. It's like listen, I can sit in my little room here, in my little studio here, and I can play guitar for 2 hours, just play a lead, and it's just like, wow, that's fun. It's like getting on, it's like flying, you know what I mean? But that's how I've always played. I just love playing lead. It's just fun to do.
That's an interesting point. So, but I mean, I think back now, I'm just into Sean's point. I'm thinking back. I mean, most of your songs, I mean, there's not a whole lot of minor chords in your songs. I mean, a lot of them are kind of like, there'd probably be a minor fifth or something, but it's not. It has kind of that major feel to it, I guess, from a songwriting perspective, which again sounds happier, which is probably what Sean's friend was probably referring to, I guess. Did you focus on that when you were writing? Or did it matter to what key was in, or what kind of progression you're going to run with?
Actually, no, we never thought of that. We thought about, well, that sounds good. That chorus works. That's kind of like, it was never a really conscious decision of anything theoretical as far as how we're going to write a song. The only really big decision we made when we were writing is like, no more ballads. We don't need any more ballads, so no more slow tempo songs. We have enough ballads.
The compass, just getting back to what we're talking about, is it was really, the song had to turn Marvin and I on. If we didn't like it, it was left behind and we moved on. So it was like, if something that we liked and we kind of were grooving on it, we would we'd keep that going. That was how the songs were generated. It was, we had to like it first.
Yeah. So I've talked to a lot of, I grew up as a fan, and I won't gush, but I did grow up as a fan. I listened to you guys all the time coming up, and obviously knew Sean but a lot of people that I've talked to that have actually worked for you and with you all say the same thing. Good songwriters, but great players. And I don't know, that to me, I think could be the ultimate compliment of a band, because you guys all compliment each other so well. but sometimes you do have that, four-legged chair and there's only three legs working, but you guys all just seem to really grind and groove together. And I think that's a great testament to what you do. And
you're not jerks. That's part of it too.
Oh, hold on. This interview's early yet there, Dave. No, just, you know what? We were always our worst critics. When we would finish a gig, we'd do like, it'd be a full evening. We'd come back and we would talk about all the things that didn't go right. This happened. We'd address all those things, and just so we wouldn't make those same mistakes the next night. And that was just part of, how we were. And it was kind of like a machine. So when Haywire took the stage, I only worked if Marvin's parts were working, if Sean was working, if Paul was on, it just worked. And when there was an issue that, when something wasn't happening, it was, the other guys would step up and kind of carry the weight for that night. But, we would always have that conversation afterwards and make the next show better.
Sure.
And I remember too that you got to realize we did a lot of years in the clubs in the Maritimes, right? And when we were done playing at night, we used to come back to hotels. Like there was no TV on. TV ended at like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning.
That's right.
There was nothing to do except play your instrument. That was it. And guitar too. I'm sorry.
And you can cut that, right, Dave?
You can just cut that
yeah. I'm such a great editor.
Watching too much Conan O'Brien. Anyway, yeah, there was nothing to do but play your guitar and just, so I came home and just at the hotel and just play guitar and write bad song ideas and that's we all did that, because there was absolutely nothing else to do once you got home from the gig.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, Marvin, because one of the things we didn't cover in the first interview is that, my first introduction to you guys was the Q104 thing, but you guys did a lot of time in the bars, kind of honing your craft and doing different, other people's songs. And so, Dave, I'll start with you. Talk about that, because that obviously kind of started to form who you guys were and what you were about.
Well, I think that was 1984 that happened, the Q104 homegrown contest. Yep. When that, we were entered in that, and it was really a long shot. And we were just a band that was working very hard. We had to work hard to compete with the Tequilas and the Titans and the Oakleys and all the other bands that came through. It's like, who do we think we are? We're just this band that has all this broken gear, trying really hard to friggin' be on the same stage as these other guys. And we just kept working. Like, we wouldn't take no for an answer. So when the Q104 homegrown contest happened, it was like, we're just going to go out there and do the best we can. That's all we can do. And that's all we ever did. It was just go out and just be the best band we can be. And it resonated with a lot of people. And, thank God they saw something different in who we were. And like Marvin said, the songwriting was really the part that it turned it into what it became. That was the difference, because there's lots of other great bands. There's other, there's cover bands that really did the cover songs well and stuff. And it's really getting to that next level that made the difference. It's like, how do you write a song and it be on the radio that's going to be next to Prince, Janet Jackson, Michael Jackson, and the list goes on and on back then.
Well, so were you guys were obviously in that statement, Dave, because two things, it's almost like we rehearsed this before you came on, but one, as you guys were coming up, you mentioned all those bands that were out there. Did you ever maybe feel any animosity from some of them that, maybe you guys, got lucky or whatever? But two, were you guys looking at globally as just opposed to, our Atlantic Canada bubble when you were doing it? It
was always global. From the day the band started, it was, we're going to make this band to leave the island and try to do something. That was our mandate from day one.
Yeah, so
go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay. Well, when we started, it was like, honestly, it was another step. Another step. First step was get the band together, and then everybody can actually leave PEI and go full time on the road. That was a huge thing, finding 5 guys that could do that. And then again, get into Halifax, finding an agent, and it just, everything was a step, and we kind of thrived and lived on those steps. Like, right. And that's one of the reasons why, like getting a record deal was just another step, and we were kind of, we couldn't believe it when it actually happened, because, writing songs on the step, another step, and that again, the record deal, which is kind of like took us to another step that took us to another step, so nothing was really contrived. It all was like a natural progression. So
I heard something the other day, and it was actually written on our site, and I didn't think it was quite fair, but I'm going to run it past you guys, and I apologize if it sounds a little bit out there. But someone said, just like, Haywire gets stuck between they were too big for the bars, not quite big enough for the stadiums. Is that a fair statement, or what do you think?
Well, you know what? It's like Marvin's talking about. There's always getting to that next level. And it was like, Haywire was at a point where it was going to be go big or stay home.
Mm.
And we were really ready to go to that next step. And that was in 90, 92, 93 or something like that. We really wanted to go beyond Canada and just really take on, see what the world had to offer the band, right? And when that didn't happen, that was the next step.
Yeah,
so,
I don't want to go into it, so I don't want to say too much about it, but we were set to take another big step. And when that didn't work out, it was kind of like we had to kind of regroup and try to find a new route to make things happen. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like then hip hop came in and took over radio, took over everything. So that kind of changed the whole world for rock and roll. You know what I mean? And that wasn't us. And then all the grunge stuff came in, and kind of like we would look like idiots if we had tried to write a grunge album. It just wouldn't have been us, So that kind of where we ended up driving the car anyway. So.
No,
it is interesting though, because we had Todd Kearns on the show, who's a Canadian boy who plays with Slash, and he's played with some other folks, and it didn't make it on the interview, but he's got a band called Took, and one of the things that he talked about was covering Canadian artists, and he mentioned that they do Haywire songs every now and again.
cool.
So for a guy that's had the successes he's had, to put you guys in the sort of the same category as a Saga or a Harlequin or that's pretty special, I think.
Yeah.
Well, we played the last gig, actually the very last gig we played was in St. John's, Newfoundland. And Marvin, who do we play? Brett Michaels from
Yes,
Canada?
Brett Michaels, yeah.
Yeah, so we opened up that show, and he was talking to a lot of the guys afterwards saying, we love your stuff. We're right into he goes, not the earlier stuff, the later stuff, the Wishbone, Operator Central, the rock, heavy stuff that of course they can relate to. So it's really neat to hear that other people are, really into what the band, did at the time and what we're into. And they thought, we're great players. They were watching Marvin play the whole night. And it was really nice to see.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because to Sean's point, I mean, you guys are the full package. I mean, you wrote wonderful songs, memorable songs. I can still sing half of your solos, Marvin, in my head, and you played so well. And again, you got along so well. And probably to Sean's point about his friend, there's that, and I'm not going to dilute it, but there's that wholesome element of it coming from PEI. It's just, you're just good boys, who are on the right path. It wasn't jerks from LA or jerks from Toronto or whatever. Like, you're from Charlottetown, right? So it was nice.
I mean, if Marvin Birt threw a TV off a ledge at a hotel, he'd probably go down to the front desk and offer up his credit card to pay for it. That's kind of what I get from that.
Yeah, or give him my credit card, even worse.
Exactly.
But mind you too, you got to realize, like, honestly, I used to hang around with Dave and Paul. Like, we've been friends our whole lives. It's just, we all knew each other. It's like, you couldn't really get out of line because somebody would be like, who do you think you are? We know who you are, so, it's like we just lived in a little bubble, and it was all our friendships and stuff, and nobody really got turned into a major alcoholic or a drug addict or anything. So it all, like, we were all pretty grounded.
And it's super interesting for me because we mentioned the south of the border angle, and we've been able to make an awful lot of friends south of the border who, every time we mention Canadian bands and we mention you guys, they know who you were. And to me, sometimes it's a little frustrating when I hear that some of our friends didn't maybe have a little bit of a better ride south of the border, but hey, they know who you guys are. They were listening to you.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, that's awesome. And you know what we heard over the years, you know, we did have a U.S. Label that, you know, released our stuff in California, and people were able to buy it in Florida and a few different places. We played just on the other side of the border, Windsor, Detroit area, and it was just really neat to, you know, with, you know, it's global right now and people are searching for music, and it's really neat when we get our royalty statements, we see from all over the world, people are playing the music, and that's nice to hear.
What's the most surprising region that's supporting your music nowadays? What's the most surprising to you?
It's not so much the region, it's just where our songs are ending up. Like one of the albums was played on Alfred Hitchcock's some TV show, and it's like, wow, like I didn't even see it or hear about it, but they play the whole album at this scene. There's like a dance at this high school dance, and Haywire, the whole album's playing in the back. Kind of neat. You just it's like, oh, that
Very
works.
cool.
That's great.
Yeah, it's, you know what, it's really everywhere, and anywhere outside what we consider the norm would be, you know, really nice to see.
I had, I think it was a 37 center show up on a royalty statement from SOCAN from somewhere in Russia that I didn't even say or spell or whatever, but it's neat when you see it, right?
Oh yeah, buy your ticket to Russia. Let's do it.
Back in the USA.
I have my first roadie check. Our manager kept it. It's like for $10.
Nice.
never cashed it. So.
I had my first one and I blew it on a 6-pack. True story. So I don't even have it anymore.
So tell me this, guys, because a lot of people ask me this too. And like, you know, I was actually going to put the question out there, but I didn't want to embarrass it because Lord knows what people would say. But now, is there any plans to do any kind of, I mean, obviously COVID be down, but I mean, after the COVID crap is over, can somebody expect to see another Haywire show?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. We were supposed to be in British Columbia all of August this past year, and a lot of really great dates and a lot of big shows that we were supposed to do, and that got put off till maybe 2023. So if we're still alive and in good health, we'll be ready to go.
I think that was the phone ringing in Marvin's background to book you guys.
Yeah,
you got a booking? Yeah. Take the call. Take the gig.
That's right.
Do it.
Always take the call.
Is that when the Hudson Boys on the phone, was it?
So the four of you guys are still in PEI.
Yeah.
And Sean's obviously in Toronto. So
actually, no. Sean moved to PEI.
Did he?
In the middle of COVID, yeah, he moved to PEI.
I did not know that.
Yeah, well, he was doing the theater shows in Toronto, the Home from Away, I think it's called Home from Away. Anyway, yeah, that all got shut down because of COVID, and he had been planning to move to PEI anyway, so this kind of just set it up, and so they did all the quarantines and stuff, moved to PEI, so now they're living here, they got a house and all that stuff. So.
So tell me you guys are jamming on a regular basis and we might hear some new Haywire material.
I've been invited. I got the call.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
Marvin's like, I got the gig.
No, it's just like, no, it's Sean, like, you gotta go in practice. It's like, well, great, okay. We'll jam anytime you want. Well, I haven't gotten the day there yet, but anyway, it's gonna be a lot of fun though. So
awesome. So can I want to put you guys on the spot, a little bit of rapid fire. We get a buddy over here, Darren Harvey, that likes to do some of this stuff when he does stuff on Eastlake. So I'll start with you, Marvin. Your top 5 guitar players.
Well, my top ones would be like, you know, Jimmy Page, you know, Eddie Jeff Beck, Larry Carlton. And Randy Rhoads. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Very nice. All right. Over to you, Mr. Rashed, because I know that last time we started, you started out playing guitar and then jumped onto keyboards out of necessity, right? Yeah. So I'll ask you the same question, and you could mix or match guitar player, keyboard player, whatever.
Well, I mean, guitar players would have to be Jimmy Page for sure is number one. Paul Stanley rocks. He's friggin' amazing. Jimi Hendrix for sure. I think after that, probably like Stevie Ray Vaughan, Eddie Van Halen, and just your typical great Eric Clapton's, the great guitar players, David Gilmour. There's so many for different reasons. But Jimmy's my number one for sure.
Let me ask you one then. How about we internalize a little bit? I'm going to ask you both this. What's your favorite Haywire song that made it to album, and what's your least favorite?
Oh, least favorite? Favorite song that made it to the album?
Yeah.
Gee. I know my favorite Haywire song. I think probably always will be. I remember I think Fire was like one of my favorite Haywire songs. Just because of the way I remember, like when the demos were done and we had the rough tracks hadn't been mixed yet. Just walk around and listen to that song, going, "Wow, I like this song. I really like this song." But every song, Black and Blue, all that stuff. When the chorus hits and you get the tingle, you can feel it, and it's all working. It's kind of like it's like a motor, and all the pistons are going at the same time. And, it's like, wow, I can't believe we built this and it actually works. It's like, So.
And the least favorite?
Least favorite?
See how he waltzed over that?
Yeah. I'm like,
what?
I'm starting to get interviewer skills now.
It's going to be a song I wrote for sure.
I knew that was coming. Yeah. Oh, I never thought about that. I don't want you to embarrass each other, but I kind of do.
Be nice, Marvin. This could be the end of the band right now.
Yeah, that's right.
Thanks, Dave.
I don't know. There's nothing really that I didn't like. Every record you can hear, oh, that didn't quite work out the way it was supposed to, or gee, we kind of tripped on that part. It starts to tumble there a little bit. But there's nothing I really hated or didn't like.
That's fair.
That is the right answer.
How about you, Dave? Your favorite song?
My favorite song has to be. Can I have two?
Yep.
Sure.
Okay. So my first favorite song is Living It Up. I love that song. It just makes me happy and it rocks. My second favorite song would probably be Man Enough. That's the ballad that we wrote, and it's just a beautiful song. I don't think it was executed exactly the way it was envisioned, but it's has all the qualities of a great song.
All right,
I'll give you mine.
I'm
going to give you my favorite Haywire song, and it's for a weird reason. So I was in the band that we used to do Angel.
Oh yeah!
Wow.
And I could not figure out what Sean was doing going into the chorus, and we were actually playing at the Six Sign in St. John, New Brunswick, and Sean was there, and he came back and he's like, "What the hell are you doing? Like literally, what the hell are you doing?" Sorry, my battery's going a little wonky here, guys. So anyway, Sean came up and he actually showed me what it was, and I was like, I went from just okaying the song to really liking the song. That's a true story.
That's awesome.
Wow, cool.
Well, you know what? My favorite, there's girl back singers in that song that we had in the studio. They just rock at the very end of Angel. If you listen to the fade on that,
yep,
it's just incredible. That's one of my favorite parts for sure that we did.
See, I've always been a big fan of Dance Desire. I just thought that was like a perfectly well-written song. It covers every element. There's a rock solo part of it, but to Sean's point, you said earlier, it's such an intricate off-sync groove to it. It's like it's a very busy but very complete song, and it's I don't know. That's always been my favorite, to be honest. So
yeah, I can see that.
I mean, it's got an energy to it. There's no question. Sorry, Marvin, what were you saying?
I was going to say, honestly, that just started again. Like we were at the practice place and Dave started playing that bass riff and I was over in the corner doing something. I said, remember that. And I ran over, picked up my guitar, and then it just happened really, really fast.
Yeah. And I mean, there's nothing, and I actually saw a clip of you guys doing that song over in Japan where, you know how it works where you record something and it sounds really amazing. And then it could possibly train wreck when you play it live. And it had every bit the energy, every bit the musicianship. It was just, it was something to see.
That was the only thing I remember of that show, and I remember like yesterday, was the energy. Oh my gosh, the excitement going on that stage. That was at the Budokan, that festival that you're talking about.
Hmm.
And oh my gosh, talk about excitement. I mean, if you were on 10, we were on 15. It was like, as soon as they said Haywire, it's like, let's do this, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, was it?
It was, see, big crowds always kind of freak me out because it's just kind of like, it's like, really, I got to go out there and play. It's like, I was so much happier with the kind of the medium to small type crowds. You know, when it got to be the big ones, that always made me nervous. But I remember going out there to the Budokan and seeing all the, the bed sheets all being draped down over the tiers with the Haywire written on them and stuff, and it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
So I cacked out of there, boys. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm having phone issues, but I'm going to ask you an audio question. I asked you this before, Marvin, but you had to be aware when things were coming up and things were happening that, you were getting to be a little bit of we'll call it a known guitar player, and you were influencing some guys. And I know you're an aw shucks guy, and you would go, I don't think so, but you had to have at some point people coming up to you saying, you know what, like you're the real deal. I really like what you're doing. I love your sound. You strike me as a humble guy. So I know it happened. So how did you handle that when it was coming up?
See, it's kind of really weird because we were always like, 5 of us stuck in a bus or a van or something. And it was like, we didn't really get it. It was a different world back then. We were kind of stuck in our little units, and that never really happened too much. Usually, there were some people come up and talk about my guitar playing and stuff like that, but it was just kind of like it's general conversation. I never really got that big of a head. Honestly, I kind of learned my lesson kind of young, where I thought I was kind of a hot guitar player. I sat down with some guys that put me in my place real quick.
Okay.
And ever since then, I kind of been like, look at every guitar player. Everybody probably knows something you don't know. So it's like, and I've learned stuff off so many guitar players I've sat down with. So my guitar playing is not really, it's kind of a collection of everything I've learned, so it's, and I just never really got a big head about it, I guess, because I just was always a student.
Well, hey, and I mean, it's good to hear that Dave Rashed wouldn't go bury Marvin in the mix. He's getting too much attention, or
How do you know I didn't say that?
because you're too nice a guy, Dave. I know you would never do that. Yeah,
that's true though. Keyboard players and guitar players, they kind of fight for that same volume, that same frequency. And I don't know, I've been to a lot of rehearsals with the guitar players and keyboard players who like to turn up to 11 a lot.
All I know is that when I realized that the keyboards weren't going to be in the mix, I stopped spending all my money on keyboard gear. It was like, why get the latest, greatest if he's going to bury it in the mix? Piece of crap freaking keyboard, everybody's happy. There.
that's funny because when we were coming up, Dave McPherson stopped buying the good keyboard gear before we even started. So that's kind of funny the way that worked. But I want to lob one thing out there. So if you guys are able to, tomorrow somebody calls you and says, we've got a tour for you guys to go out and do. It's going to be a 52 date, North American tour. And it's the band of your choice that you could open for or play with or co-headline. Who might it be?
Oh, jeez.
He's getting good at this stuff, isn't he? Look.
He is getting good. What are you feeding him?
I want to know. I'm on the edge of my seat myself.
Yeah.
Gee. I haven't got a clue. It's like I try to think of bands that are like us, and it's kind of like I have a hard time finding a band that's kind of like us. Does that make sense? Like there's bands that appeal to the rock side, and it's like.
Can I just jump in while he's thinking?
Go ahead. Yeah, I'll be up. Bacon. If you smell bacon, okay.
Just think off of camera for a sec.
Okay.
No, I always wanted to redo our 1986 tour with Kim Mitchell. I thought that would be a nice, him do the patio lanterns thing, and we do our songs. And that was just such a great tour.
Yep.
And I think having somebody that's exactly like you is probably not the best thing. Having somebody that complements you, and I think that the stuff that Kim was doing on that album, and the next couple albums, we complemented each other. I think that'd be a neat little tour to go across the country.
Well, and I remember seeing that show in Halifax, and my two takeaways, they're both Sean Kilbride moments where he had 2 red Peisty China cymbals, which he gave me because he got a new deal, which was actually, he sold me. He sold them to me, but God love him, I had them.
You got
the other thing
you
was,
sold it for Sean.
yeah. But another thing was about a week after that, Sean gave me a call because you guys were doing the Western part and there was a break and all his gear was away. And I don't know if you guys remember the show Switchback.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Sean was hosting and he called me and he said, I need to borrow your snare drum and kick drum and a cymbal because I got to do a little thing in between the break. I'm like, no problem. So I had 2 kick drums and one of them said Sean McKenna on it. And that's the one that I gave him. I told you the story before. So when they played the thing, there's Sean Kilbride playing my drums with my name on it. It was really cool. But I remember seeing that show, and that show was, I like Kim Mitchell. I was a fan, but it was really cool to see you guys just because, I mean, you held your own, man. You guys were up there doing it with the guy who was, a legend of Canadian stature, right? So.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you.
That's a good point, Dave, because, I mean, you might think logically, well, it would make sense for them to tour with Honeymoon Suite or Bryan Adams or, even Glass Tiger at the time, but that would have been too similar. You know what I mean? You're right. Kim Mitchell was just a little bit off there. That was a nice compliment. You're right. Did you figure one out there, Marvin? Who are you thinking?
No,
I
think a bit more.
Dave wants to talk. Let him
more.
think.
Just think to the. I remember it was really the Kim Mitchell tour where I remember we were playing in Saskatoon, and our album just came out. And we were on tour, and when we were playing Saskatoon, the theater there was 2,000 people. There was 1,000 people that were in the front row, basically mouthing all of the words to all our songs.
Nice.
And that's when we knew that this was happening.
Yeah.
That's the first, like up to that point, it was kind of like, okay, we're just doing a thing. And then, that was the moment. And after our set, those 1,000 people left and the Kim 1,000 people came to the front and, half the crowd came to see us. And it was really interesting.
Yeah, I know there's so many great bands, and honestly, we've been touring now, like in our later years, we've been touring and doing all these shows and festivals, and it's really interesting meeting all these guys. We're on the road. It's like I had a lot of just a couple of years ago. We're just on tour, and all of a sudden it's like we're playing with Loverboy, and I get to hang out with Paul Dean and talk to him for an hour. It's like wow, it's like Derry Mills, is Mike Reno, it's all these people that I'm meeting now that I never knew before. And it's and back to the person I would like to tour with. I think I would really like to have worked with or open for Bryan Adams, because I would have loved to have talked to him about songwriting. Because man, that guy wrote some friggin' major hits. Oh my God,
That would have been a nice match for sure. So one of the things too that you mentioned, Marvin, meeting some of these folks, and Dave and I have been lucky, fortunate, whatever you want to call it, to have all kinds of different folks on. And we interviewed Russell Javers a couple of weeks ago that played with Billy Joel. And it was really interesting because he told 2 stories that struck me that were really funny. One was the fact that I don't really know if Billy Joel plays keyboards as much as he thinks he does, because they were talking about when they were songwriting. But the other thing was he lent Billy Joel a guitar and didn't get it for about 27 years. Billy Joel put it in the closet and it went missing. So my thought was, hey, it doesn't matter how big you are. Everybody kind of goes through the same stuff, and it's neat. So when you meet some of these folks, the nice ones, the good ones, put the pant legs on one leg at a time, and the ones that aren't, who cares, right?
Exactly.
Oh yeah, and especially like it's also this time in our lives when a lot of the ego stuff has all fallen by the wayside. So just like the wife's home, the kids are bugging me. It's like I'm out on the road, I don't get to deal with any of that stuff, So.
But well, listen, we want to be respectful of your time. So I guess any closing thoughts? What can folks look forward to for Haywire in say 2008? That tour would be awesome. But are you working on any new music at all, or are you talking about that? Is that on the table?
We are. We always have new music that we're working on. We've been there's one that's sitting on our system that we've been working on for a long time. Geez, the last 10 years. And we, Marvin and I, we've always talked about, it just kind of rounds out our collection. That's how we see it. It's for people that are into the band, interested. It's just for them to grab onto it. It's like we're independent again. We don't have a record label with their big deep pockets that are going to promote it to radio. So it's going to be a whole different thing than what we're used to. So we're not sure exactly what it's going to do, where it's going to end up. who's going to hear it. There will be another album. It will be released. You know, it'll be independently released, and that's it. It's just basically going to round out the Haywire collection, and you know, who knows? Maybe Marvin and I will get together and we'll write some more stuff. You never know.
Yeah, because as soon as Paul starts singing, it sounds like Haywire. So
100%.
Yeah.
you know,
And I said this last time. When you guys get the album out and you come to little old Halifax, do me the honor, let me jam with you for 10 minutes.
Done.
That doesn't sound like a very heavy lift. So,
Well, you don't know. You haven't heard Dave. I'm pretty good, but you haven't heard Dave. So,
Why don't you guys just do the gig and let us just go and relax and get a little.
hey, I'd be up for that too. I'll even let you keep the money, Dave.
Whatever. It all works.
Wait, money was just, wait a minute.
Wait a second. You guys get paid to play?
Yeah.
What, is this new? New concept?
Yeah.
A little while.
Well, like I said, we want to be respectful of your time, guys. And thanks so much for doing this again. I'm glad we were able to do it with a more snappy internet connection. And I said it the last time, and I'll say it again. I mean, you know, growing up listening to you guys, it's so nice that you're nice people, and you know, nice people first and great musicians second. And you know, way back when we started this, you were two of the folks that came on to give us a lift, and we don't take that lightly.
No.
Awesome. Well, that's nice to hear, and you know how to reach us whenever. You know, hopefully when we have some new music to share with you guys, we'll be in touch and we'll give you a shout.
Please do.
Barstools and Bandtalk are way, way, way behind Haywire. Whatever the folks you guys want to do next, we are there with you 100% for sure.
thanks. Thank
Dave,
you.
I forgot. I was supposed to mention this to you. Apparently, my cousin used to babysit you now. I forgot to mention this now. From in Charlottetown.
Me?
Yep. Debbie Doyle, her name was.
Debbie Doyle, okay.
I don't know when, but
That sounds
made
made up
Rashed
to
when
me.
he was, you know, so I thought, well, I'll throw it out there. I don't know if he remembers all his babysitters or not, but
Here's the key. Like, was I the most perfect baby she ever babysat? That's.
I think that's
No,
what she
Dave,
said.
Dave, you were
exactly her
16. You were 16.
Right.
Oh, I was the
I think it's
oldest
just
baby.
last year. I'm pretty sure it's just last year.
Yeah. God bless her. Tell her I said hi.
Oh, I will do. Will do. So, guys, again, we sure appreciate it. Whatever you're going to do next, please let us know. We would love to help you promote it. You know, like I said, it's we're big fans for sure, and always will be, and always have been.
Awesome, guys. Thank you very much.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Appreciate it.
Peace.
All right, take care, guys.
Yeah.
All the best.